fellow human light beings. I am Mahadev, the Thunder Wizard. It is my distinct honor and privilege to be speaking with you today. This is the Solar Flash update for February 4th, 2024. And today I'm going to be talking to you about the 8 stages of transformation to 5D. 5D is something that we can initiate now. In fact, it is completely possible for people to achieve the frequency shift even while we're waiting for whatever this event that we think is coming, solar flash or the awakening, or however you want to look at it. So we're going to take a look, and you can take a look at yourself and see where along this stage of transformation you may or may not be. I'll share my experiences. Welcome to the channel. This is Mahadev, the Thunder Wizard. My computer's getting a little uncomfortable because it's a hot day. So I'm gonna put it on here, give it a little, hopefully it'll quiet itself down. Okay, so I am finding my experience to be something that has been more gradual than I had expected. So to give you some background on this, in June of 2022, I made successful contact with higher dimensional extraterrestrial beings, and they completely, totally collapsed my understanding of reality. Completely, totally destroyed it. If you've been watching the channel, forgive me, I'm going to repeat myself. If you're new to the channel, you should know that before June of 2022, I didn't even believe aliens existed. I didn't have anything against them. I just didn't think it was physically possible. Bear in mind, I'm a teacher. I've been teaching and practicing high-level esoteric spiritual practices. I completely believed and have experienced that doing energy practices and meditations and things like that has given me the power to change reality. In terms of my martial arts, back in the day when I used to do that, I had the ability to defy the laws of physics and do things that humans weren't capable of doing. All the kinds of stuff that you've seen in, those old kung fu movies. A lot of that stuff is true. So it's not that I wasn't open to believing any of that. I just didn't. I hadn't seen anybody that convinced me of anything. I had doubts about alien abductions. There was something about it that just didn't feel right, and I now know why, but we'll talk about that another time. But I watched a movie called Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, which is a documentary, not a Hollywood movie, about people doing a very simple meditative protocol to contact extraterrestrials. And when I saw that, I went, I have to find out if this is true or not. And I did it, and sure enough, it was more true than I could have even imagined. I won't get into all that. If you want to know more about it, you can go on to the playlists in the Aliens playlist, and you can watch the video How I Became an Extraterrestrial to see the audio and video evidence that I was indeed visited by a higher dimensional extraterrestrial being. And I didn't know anything about the solar flash. I'd never heard of it. I'd never even heard that term before. I had heard, awakening. What about the ascension? I had heard about that, but the people who had talked about it from my perspective were New Age wannabe, fluff balls, and so I just completely dismissed it. So I was very shocked and surprised when I was having interactions and communications with extraterrestrial beings. They first gave me a very powerful vision which was very symbolic to me. I've talked about it in other videos, but it was very symbolic to me. But the gist of the vision was that there was going to be a single worldwide event that everybody was going to see in the skies that they would interpret as the second coming of Jesus, or whatever equivalent in their religion, or if they didn't have a religion, they were going to experience it as God coming to earth, something along those lines. And then what would happen is that people would begin to wake up and understand that it was something even far beyond anything that religion had given to them, and the whole world would shift. I was flabbergasted. I did not expect this, and so I didn't know what it meant. So the next time I communicated with them, I asked them, I said, what is this event going to be? Because the only thing I could imagine was fleets of spaceships, to shock people out of their understanding of the third dimension and the universe that we live in. That's what I thought would have to happen. Because my experience with higher dimensional beings did that to me. It completely shifted my awareness, and I immediately had a different understanding about the universe than I did before. So I expected that's what it would have to be. So I said, so what is this event going to be? Is it going to be fleets of spaceships coming to Earth? And the ET I was talking to said, no. It's going to be a series of solar waves of love, that is a quote, that is going to hit the earth, penetrate through the earth, and shift the frequency of all beings up to a higher level, and humans will awaken to a new understanding. And after that, I thought to myself, okay, I've lost my mind. I'm just making stuff up. That's just, that's fantasy movie nonsense. And I said something on a live stream one day to that effect. I said, it sounds ridiculous to me. I think I was imagining things. And somebody said, no, that's a real thing. It's called the solar flash, or it's called the event. And I went, what? And I went and looked into it. And sure enough, people have been talking about this very thing for decades. Very long time. In fact, one guy got mad at me just on one of my more recent videos, and attacked me and called me names because he had heard about this in 2015 and it didn't happen fast enough for him. And so now he's upset and he's decided it hasn't happened, and now he's attacking me because I'm telling people this is going to happen. Hey, I didn't make this up. You can get mad at me if you want. This isn't my idea. I would never have thought that this could have been possible. But here's what I have seen. Since that time, of course, my reality has shifted. I have been visited more times than I can count by higher dimensional beings who have put energy into me and taken me on astral travels to places and dimensions that defy anything on a human level. And twice they came to me and shifted me up to what we would call 5D. By the way, ETs never use that phrase 5D. They never use that. And when I use it, I'm not talking about densities. I would encourage anybody who follows the law of one, and if you think that the law of one teaches you anything about extraterrestrials and all that stuff, I would suggest that you drop it. I won't get into it, but that isn't good information. There's some truths in there, of course, love everybody, all the obvious stuff, but there's a lot of stuff in there that's actually taking you down a wrong path, in my estimation. So I don't use the word density. When I say 5D, I mean fifth dimension. But the ETs never use that phrase. In fact, they never even really use phrases at all. They talk about a frequency shift. They talk about a consciousness shift and elevation. And so, and anyway, I forgot where I was going with that. So I like to keep myself on track. So I have a list here. We're going to talk about the stages of transformation to 5D, and we'll talk about that. Before we do that, if you're new to the channel, here's what I need you to do right now. I need you to go to, of course, subscribe, like, and comment. I need you to go to the free playlists page on my Thunder Wizard YouTube channel page. There are 3 playlists I want you to click on and begin watching videos on. The first one is the Maoshan Qigong playlist. Second one is the interdimensional meditation, guided meditations, which will allow you the potential to have the experiences that I've just talked about. And the third one is the 12 steps to 5D. Do at least one thing from one of those playlists every day. If you can do more than one, great. While you're doing that, I want you to go to the website thunderwizard.com, subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. You can unsubscribe whenever you want. When you're doing the Lightning Qigong, you don't have to follow the do 1 out of 3 playlists, because you'll be following my routine. I'm going to be guiding you from A to Z. The free playlists are for people that need to prove to themselves that I've got something of value to share. Once you've felt the energy, like if you do the energy from the Summoning the Immortals Qigong and you feel that power and you want more of that, and you were skeptical before, subscribe. You don't have to do that. You can subscribe right now. Trust me, you won't. If you follow my instructions, I guarantee you an experience. And as I said, you can unsubscribe whenever you want. My books, michaelwilliamdunny.com, I talk about things that, very in-depth about extraterrestrials and higher dimensions and all that other stuff. All right, so that's what I need you to do if you're new to the channel. Now let's get into it. So these is kind of an arbitrary list. This is not exhaustive. This is, you can have this happen in different orders or whatever, but these are some things that I've experienced which I think may be accurate for you as well. So the first stage, I call stage 0, is complete 3D hypnosis. So understand that this reality we live in is a virtual reality video game for the soul. And the difference between us playing a virtual reality, video game with the goggles on, even if we get completely immersed into it, we still know that we're a 3-dimensional person that lives out here in what we consider to be the real world, and we know that this is not real, even though we get fully involved in it and all that kind of stuff. And we can, take the goggles off whenever we want. So the difference between that and what our soul experiences is that once we incarnate, because we have to have an interface in this matrix, in this 3-dimensional false reality. The interface is the human body. We've got the hardware here. This is the computer, the brain. The software is the personality, the intellect, and the physical body is part of the hardware as well. Our nervous system, our senses, all of these things allow us to interface in the 3rd dimension, because without it, you wouldn't be able to interface. Because you are not a 3rd dimensional creature. You are, you go all the way up to the 12th dimension. If you were to see yourself in these higher dimensions, it's very challenging. I got to tell you, it's very challenging to experience yourself in these higher dimensions and then come back and function in the 3rd dimension. It becomes very challenging. So the way this has been set up is that you have to forget. You have to forget who you are. You have to forget that you are in control of all of this, and this is nothing more than an illusion. And I have to say, again, people yesterday were commenting and left comments and were, you know, rather angry and abusive. But the core of their anger and abuse towards me comes from their discomfort with the third dimension. And I'm here to tell you that if you're miserable, if you're angry, and it's okay if you are, if you're angry, if you're full of self-pity, if you're full of rage, if you're full of victim mentality, if you're depressed, if you're bored, if you're lonely, if you feel empty inside, if you are angry at the powers that be, whether they be humans or whether they be God or whether they be the archons or the false beings of light, however you see that, if you have anger towards anything that you believe has control over you, I'm here to tell you that you are in fact completely hypnotized. Because it's the exact same as if somebody's playing a virtual reality game and they somehow started to believe that the 3D that they're experiencing was real. That's all that's happening here. I'm not saying that to dismiss your pain or your sadness or your loneliness or your confusion or your depression. I'm not trying to dismiss any of that. I have experienced that as well, so I totally get that. But that's all it is. And if you can accept that, you may not have a hard time, you may have a hard time believing it. That's okay too. But if you can accept that that is what is going on, and you understand that your reactions to an illusion it's irrational, then you can start moving towards the goal of being happy. You know, and that's really, I wanted to start off this video today by asking you, are you happy? It's okay if you're not. Do you want to be? Do you want to be happy? If you want to be happy, then there are some things you're going to have to do. And the first thing is you're going to have to change some of the ways that you choose to react to your life. Being angry, being miserable, being confused are all understandable. But again, that is irrational if you actually have the ability to take off the virtual reality goggles and be in the real world. Well, there's a real world beyond this third dimension. Most people only get to it if they die or if they end up taking some psychedelic. The rest of humans don't get to do that. They stay here throughout their life and they take the goggles off when they're dead. So we are entering a time where we get to do that without having to physically die. And this is something that has never been presented to human beings before. But you have to choose it. You have to be willing to die to the hypnosis of this third dimension. Okay? All right, so let's get back to the list here. So 0 is complete 3D hypnosis, where you're completely trapped in the virtual reality game and you totally believe it. That's 0. So what is phase 1? Phase 1 is you become aware that this is a matrix. Matrix is just a word. By the way, well, that's another, I won't get into it. Matrix is just a word. And people use whatever symbolism works for them. In Vedic times, you know, a couple thousand years ago, they didn't have computers. So the idea of a computer program or a matrix wasn't something that was part of their reality. What they talked about was illusion. And they had their version, I mean, it's not at all the same, but it's the closest symbolic connection. They had a connection that people nowadays use for the archons. And they called it Maya. Maya was a goddess. But she wasn't doing it to harm anybody. She was creating a beautiful, wonderful illusion for our senses. And that was the whole idea, was that this is a sensory illusion. And you can appreciate it and enjoy it and celebrate it. And that's a beautiful thing. But as long as you're aware of what it is. But if you get trapped into it, then you end up in pain. Nowadays, we have a different understanding of it. Instead of worshiping the goddess Maya, who has created it, we've turned it into something negative. We turned it into the demiurge, or the archons, or the false beings of light, or the reptilians. Those are all symbols of the same idea. But nowadays, modern people are far, far more victim mentality oriented, which means, again, if you're worshiping the goddess Maya, you have a sense that you have some control over this, and you have a pathway to gaining control, which is worshiping the goddess who created it. She has nothing against you. She only wants you to be happy. She'll be more than happy to reveal to you the secrets of Maya. But in modern times meaning, from 2,000 years on, since the beginning of Gnosticism, that's when the victim mentality really started taking hold, and people started projecting onto this three-dimensional matrix, which is actually here to serve you. It's a video game that you control. So imagine you're playing this game, and imagine you're playing this game and you happen to have the controller. You can control what goes on. What's worse is if you're in the game and you don't have access to the controller. And if you're upset, that's what's happening. So I hope you can accept these concepts, because what I want to do is give you hope. There's nothing to be gained by being angry. I mean, it's just a complete waste of energy. Being angry and feeling like a victim is a waste of your time, and it's frustrating and saddening to me when I've seen people who have been on the channel sometimes for years, who half-ass their time. They come here and then they go onto other channels and they get wrapped up in the victim mentality. They don't do the practices. The way out is to do the practices. The 90-day challenge, the 3 playlists I told you about, the way out is to do the practices. That's when you start to become aware that you've got goggles on. You can take the goggles off. If you're not going to do the practices, it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to gain the control that you want. So again, the question is, you want to be right. You want to argue with me about whether or not there are false beings of light trapping you here. I say there aren't. I know there aren't, but you don't know that. You haven't experienced what I've experienced. Maybe you don't have the level of control over your virtual reality game that I do. I mean, mine is going really well. I'm having a blast, and I have control. I've got the controllers. I can create what I want. Can you do that? If the answer is no, I'm not competing with you. You don't have to get mad at me and start calling me names, because I'm telling you that you can do something different, that you can be happier. Now, the problem is a lot of people don't want to be happy. And if that's where you are, then there's nothing I can do for you. But if you want to be happy, I can show you the tools. All right, let's keep going. So the awareness of the unseen matrix, I would say, is stage 1. Stage 2 is paranoia of dark forces. So if you do believe false beings of light and archons and whatever the Gnostics call the bad god, I forget what they call him, or evil reptilians, the devil. If you believe that, that's actually a good sign. I don't do. Sorry, I'm getting a lot of energy, so I'm having a hard time focusing. I don't do psychedelics, but I enjoy hearing about them because it reminds me of what happens to me when I go into interdimensional meditation and I communicate with higher beings and I go to other dimensions. The difference is that the DMT that's getting released in my brain is happening naturally, whereas when you do it with psychedelics, it's being forced, actually reduces your body's ability to create DMT. But I like it because I like listening to those experiences because it reminds me of the experiences that I have. And I sort of forgot what I was saying. But you know what'll happen is if somebody only takes a small dose, what'll happen is they'll get paranoid. They have to really commit and go deeper before they get past the paranoia, and then they go into the other dimensions. And that's exactly what's happening here. If you are aware that we're in a matrix and you are filled with fear and paranoia, that is actually a sign that you are beginning to shift. The fear and paranoia, the anger, the victim mentality is the third dimensional hypnotic program fighting against the awareness that is beginning to make its way into your consciousness. So I give you guys a hard time if you have all of that, those negative feelings and feeling like victims. And you know, I've been harsher with you in the past because I had to be harsh with myself. You're not me, so maybe you need to do things in a different way. But that's how I needed to, you know, I have to treat it like a warrior. So when you are at that stage where you're paranoid of the dark forces, you think you're being attacked by demons. I used to do exorcisms, so I know demons exist, and I can tell you 95% of the time when people think they're being attacked by demons, they're not. It's psychosomatic. But if you feel like you're being attacked by demons, that negative spirits are holding you down, that you're being, you know, all the other stuff I mentioned, the archons, false beings of light, blah, blah, blah. The good news is that paranoia, that victim mentality is actually a sign that you are beginning to shift. But the paranoia is trying to refocus you back into the lower frequency. So one of the hardest things to do is to go contrary to what you think your survival instincts are telling you. You think a giant monster is coming to eat you, and somebody says, just stand there, don't do anything. It's an illusion. It's going to take everything inside of you to listen to that and act on that. But, you know, it's like, you know, some animals in the wild, if you turn around and run, that's when they're going to chase you and eat you. But, you know, if a mountain lion's coming at you, you know, lots of times if you stand up and make yourself big and make a bunch of noise and stomp the ground, they'll leave you alone. But it takes a lot of guts, and you have to trust. So I'm telling you, if you're at that stage and you've got the paranoia of the dark forces, don't let go. Don't buy into it. Remember, you're in a 3D video game. It's not real. What is real is that you are a higher dimensional being that has all the power to completely control this. And I can tell you, once you get to that place and you learn how to do that, we talk about that in the thunderwizard.com in the 90-day challenge, in the part that's called the, Mastering the Matrix or something like that. I've got whole huge tons of videos I spent years making on what you can do to master the Matrix. So if you want to control this thing, you can. But you can't do it while being a victim, while being angry, while being full of self-pity, while being full of resentment. You can't do it at the same time, because those mindsets create a certain frequency. And if you're at a certain frequency, you lose the controller. The controller disappears out of your hands. You have to be at a higher frequency before the controller shows back up, and then you can play the game. All right, so the third one is awakening to your spiritual power. So the ironic thing is, when you drop the fear, which your instincts are telling you to fight, to be afraid, to be angry, to be paranoid, to be untrusting, to believe that everything is out to get you. The irony is that when you drop that, the power of your spiritual consciousness begins to expand. I'm getting huge energy downloads as I'm saying this, so this is important to somebody. It's hard to do this. I learned it because of what I had to do to survive as a kid. I had to learn how to do what is called contrary action, which is I had people that were helping me stay alive who said, you have to do contrary action. It means you have to do the exact opposite of what your instincts are telling you to do. And so I learned that for years, and it saved my life. I took that same principle and I applied it to this, the shift to 5D. It's the exact same thing. Your instincts are going to try and tell you to be afraid, to be angry, to be a victim. That when people like me come along and say, here are the tools to be happy, you get mad at me. When I tell you there are no false beings of light trapping you, your response should be, oh my God, thank you. That was really frightening me. But that's not how people react. They get mad. How dare you say that? They get mad at me. That's irrational. So that shows that you're under some kind of hypnosis when you act irrationally. When somebody tells you there's a way out and you get mad at them for that, something's not right. It's part of the third dimensional hypnosis. So in order to break the hypnosis, you got to do the opposite sometimes. Increased self-evaluation. So this is along the lines of what I've just been saying. Stage 4 is that you are willing and aware to take a look at yourself. And it's not easy. It doesn't feel good. When you have to acknowledge when you've been selfish, when you've been angry, when you've been abusive, when you have, in your attempt to try and save and protect yourself, you've been abusive and selfish towards other people, towards yourself. When you have bought into the self-devaluing programming, to let go of that is painful. It's really painful to be loved. It's frightening. And, the extreme example is a mental illness called borderline personality disorder. I dated a woman who had borderline personality disorder, and so I know exactly, how they function. And the way that they are is that their symptoms, anyway, is that they desperately want to be loved. More than anything in the universe, what they want is to be loved. And they will chase after people who they think, and they'll fall in love immediately with somebody, and they will, that person will be like a god to them. And then what will happen is the person who's experiencing this, this immense openness and this seeming love, they will respond by giving a really deep, passionate, intimate, loving experience to the borderline. But when the borderline actually starts to feel loved, the strangest thing happens. They then completely lose their mind. They switch from being completely loving to full of hate. And they become completely paranoid, thinking that the person that they once thought was the most wonderful, loving person in the world, all of a sudden they will say they're out to destroy me, and they can get violent. They'll go and destroy your life, slash your tires. They'll call the cops, put you in jail. And you'll be like, what happened yesterday? You said I was the most wonderful thing. And that's before I knew who you really were. You're out to destroy me. So they have this intense fear of love and intimacy, which is the thing that they want more than anything else. This is exactly what happens with human beings. The most painful and frightening thing for the third dimensional human is to experience the love, the unconditional, complete love from higher dimensions. Once you feel it, it sounds great on paper, right? On paper, it sounds really great. Oh, I'd love to have that. But once you feel that love, which is on a higher dimension, your third dimensional reality starts coming apart. And then your survival instincts kick in, and that's why people will start saying things like, you know, these are false beings that are trying to trap you, they're lying to you. That's your survival mechanism. That's your version of borderline personality disorder, which is actually third dimensional hypnosis. So when you get to the place where you start to move past that, you then start to feel real power. You then start to understand that you can control this, that you have the power to determine exactly what happens in your third dimensional reality. So you awaken to your spiritual power, you increase your self-evaluation, and you do this because once you become aware that your symptom, that your paranoia is blocking you from having all of this power and all of this joy, then when it crops up, you go, I know what that is. Everything in you wants to listen to that and bog down and get trapped in all that negativity, but you go, I know what this is. And you keep going in the realm of self-evaluation. And you keep going in the realm of seeking to be loved, even though you know it's going to fry your third dimensional attachments, even though you know it's going to feel like you're dying, you go after it. And then stage 5 is the awareness of your deity identity. This was, and still is, well, no, not so much anymore, but this was initially the most difficult thing for my 3D mind to accept. In fact, if you go back and watch videos that I made in 2022, there was a period of time where I was coming on saying I can't make videos, I'm physically not well. And what had ended up happening is that I had been shown my deity self. And a higher dimensional being came and said, "You're a deity." I said, "Yes, I know, we're all part of God." And he said, No. You're a deity. This is just a third dimensional version. This is nothing. So let me show you. And I was taken to a realm where I was presented to my deity self. And accepting that, it was a very blissful, powerful experience, but when I came back into my physical body, it meant everything I understood about three-dimensional reality was meaningless. My identity in the third dimension had taken the hugest hit possible. And you wouldn't think that. You'd think that if somebody was presented with their deity self, that they'd become full of themselves, but that's the opposite of what happens. You end up getting angry that somebody showed you that, because it means you start to die here. You don't know how to function here anymore. You're not this little tiny person running around trying to get status and money and love and acceptance. You're now like, what? And it was so challenging to my human brain because I was trying to figure it out. I don't recommend you do that. I actually harmed myself physically. I got what's called frozen shoulder for a second time. It's been over a year and I'm still recovering from that. I'm almost back to 100%. But I couldn't function. My whole right side of my body was full of pain, and I couldn't even lift my arm. And that's just because I couldn't absorb and this knowledge. I couldn't consume it and understand it. So good news is that you don't have to go through things the same way I do. I'm very grateful that these higher dimensional beings give me things the way that I want, because I like this. I like doing things in extreme. You don't have to worry about that. Things will happen however they happen for you. So you become aware of your deity identity in higher dimensions. And then 6, in order to really let that deity identity awareness really take hold, which again will allow you to decide your happiness, it will allow you to decide what you do here, it will allow you to be able to get rid of things that don't work, to to do things you've never done before, and to love yourself on a level you've never experienced. But what will happen is you'll become aware, number 6, that you have to release your resentments. So this is tough. People don't realize it, but resentments feed them. Again, people get mad at me because I tell them the good news that, you can be free of this matrix, you can have everything you want, you can be full of bliss, you can be full. People get mad at me for telling them that. So, what it means is that people are comfortable being in resentment. It's part of that 3D mindset. So you realize you have to get rid of that. Now, the easiest way to do that is the 12 steps to 5D, especially steps 4 through 9. When you do steps 4 through 9, you'll release those resentments. Because those resentments are nothing more than a program. Imagine that it's a fail-safe program. Your third dimensional program that tells you you're this limited being on this planet. Your name is so-and-so, you've only been alive for so many years, and you're good at this, you're bad at that, you're whatever the negativity things about you that's a program. Within that program is a fail-safe. When you start to go beyond that programming, bear in mind that programming is allowing this hardware and the software to give you the ability to interface in the third dimension, to limit you into the third dimension. So there's a fail-safe program. To keep you in the frequency of the third dimension, your mind will start creating resentments. So-and-so did this to me. My parents did that to me. Mahadeva told me that I chose to come here and that all of my misery is self-created. That asshole, how dare he say that to me? Does he have any idea what I've gone through? How dare you tell me that I chose to go through this? All of that is that fail-safe program pulling you back down into just living in this 3D video game. There's that one scene in The Matrix. It's really appropriate, where I forget the character's name, but he wanted to go back. He said, "I want to go back in the Matrix." That's what resentments are. Every time you're filled with resentment, it is that fail-safe program saying, "I want to go back in the Matrix." All right. So number 7 is detachment from the 3D narrative. This is another level of awareness. There's a lot of people that think they've detached from the 3D narrative, but in reality, they're staying in it. So this is why I've given up on anything having to do with politics. It's an enjoyable farce. I like watching it. I find it funny. Especially I like watching how, this farce of, our current governmental system, and, now we're seeing how completely powerless the President of the United States really is. He's really nothing. He's a puppet of, who knows what. And what's enjoyable is watching how that whole narrative is coming down. But it's just as ridiculous to think that the opposing party is going to be, once they get into power, that's going to fix it. There hasn't been one president who hasn't said that. This country is about to fall apart. I'm the only one that's going to save it. Obama said that. Bush said that. They all said it. And you find out, even the ones that are well-meaning, once they get into that office, they get brought into meetings with very high-level intelligence people who say, "So now let's tell you what your job really is. Here are the things you're going to do. Here are the things you're not going to do. And if you don't do what we tell you, fill in the blank." So I don't get involved in that, but if you think that escaping the narrative is about getting involved in alternative politics, you're wrong. Again, I've been alive long enough to see back in the 60s and the 70s. I was born in the early 60s. In the 60s and the 70s, it was the Democratic Party that actually fought for freedom of speech, fought for, against war. That was the party of democracy, freedom, all of that. And now it's the opposite. And I'm telling you, it's a shell game. They switch it every time. Once you pick a side and that side gets into power, that side will corrupt itself and turn into the evil party. Happens every time. So detaching from the narrative means that you detach from all of it. Look, I'm still here. I still got to pay bills and buy surfboards and all that kind of stuff. So I got to do that. I got to have bank account and money. But listen, the first chance I get to go up into the mountains and walk away from all this, I'm going to do it. That's not my job. I'm here for a reason, and I'm here to do what I'm doing right now, to share this knowledge and to give people specific steps to achieve what I'm currently achieving. So as long as that's still going on, I'm gonna interface as little as I can. But rejecting the narrative means that you reject all of it, because not because it's evil or wrong, but because it's a video game. It's a video game. Money is an arbitrary concept. I mean, one of the things I find really amazing is cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is something that people like because it's supposed to be private. The government can't get a hold of it. But now you get taxed on it, and now the government wants to take it over, and they're going to create their own cryptocurrency. And but it's all a made-up thing. Money is a made-up concept. So is power. So is reputation. So is status in society. It's all made up. There's nothing real to it. You can't take any of it and hold it in your hands. It doesn't exist. So I'm disconnecting from the narrative, not from an angry place, because that keeps you, all you do is create another narrative. I'm disconnected because the whole thing is just a game. It's a Monopoly game. It's not real. What is real is the love that you have inside of you. What is real is the pride that you have in your soul. What is real is the joy you experience with friends and family, with nature. I went surfing today, and again, it was just, I've created such an amazing thing. I couldn't have anything better if you threw me in Hawaii or other places that are supposed to be better. It wouldn't be better than what I've got. And, that's more important to me than anything else. What happens to me in meditation and the power and the joy and the bliss that I feel in my meditative practice, there isn't any amount of money, reputation, or status, or possessions that can come anywhere near what that does for me. So that's what I mean by disconnecting from the narrative. You'll have your own experience. If you're not there yet, follow my directions, and I guarantee you'll get there. Oops, sorry. Number 8, communication with 5D energies. Like I said, this isn't in an exact order, but what I'm trying to say by that is that when you get to the 8th stage, and I don't know what's beyond that, I don't need there to not be more. There could be more beyond that. This is where I'm at now. I have a direct connection to higher dimensional places, higher dimensional versions of myself, higher dimensional energies. And when you can create that connection to higher dimensions and have that be something that's at least a semi-regular part of your reality, and you don't fight it. Now, I fought it for a long time. I still, if I were to get more, I'd probably fight with it. That's just the nature of being a 3D human. But at some point you'll get to the place where that becomes normal to you. That becomes part of your reality. And you start to identify more and more with your higher dimensional self than you do with this 3D character. And I'm in the process of completely overhauling my 3D identity. It is my plan that a lot of things about me are going to take a huge shift. And it is my plan that there will be ways that I have interacted and functioned and thought and reacted that I will not do anymore. And I will be responding in ways that are new to me. And that's because I'm a different person. I'm not the same person I was a month ago. My identity, the character that was written for me, has been erased, and I'm writing a new one. This one, I just, I know it sounds like I'm bragging, but it's absolutely mind-boggling to me. 10 years ago, I was in so much physical pain that I wasn't capable of doing anything. I couldn't have lifted this bottle of soda because I had so much pain in my joints. Every time I moved my neck, I was afraid my neck was going to go into spasm. I got over that. I started healing from all of those pains and illnesses, and I got my health back. But 4 years ago, I was, struggling to be able to surf at the level that I wanted to. I wasn't, if I was catching a wave, I was having a hard time hopping to my feet. I wasn't as limber as I was. I would be out of breath. I would have to, if I went surfing for one day, I'd have to take 2 days off, and I'd have to get a massage just to be able to function because I'd be so sore. And here it is 4 years later. I'm now 60 years old. And I'm surfing like I did when I was in my 30s. And my body is functioning completely differently. I don't need to get massages anymore. I don't need to take days off. I can go surfing every single day and go to the gym. My body is changing and transforming in ways that should be impossible. And I'm not telling you this to brag. I'm just telling you that what's happening is I'm able to decide. In my mind, I say I decide how I want my body to be, how I want my health to be. And of course my physical surroundings and everything else. I decide how that's going to be, and it starts to change into that. And what's happening more and more is I wake up every day. I wake up and I look around and things feel different. Yeah, it's the same place I was in yesterday, but something's changed. People are treating me differently. This is the result of the shift. It's a frequency shift. And this is what I mean when I say to you that 5D is not a place, it is a frequency. Now, you can wait. If you want to wait for the Ascension event, which may happen tomorrow, for all I know. I haven't gotten into all of the things that's going on in the world. I mean, you've got eyes. If you're spending any time, you're seeing what's happening to the governmental system. We're on the verge of a civil war in the United States, and I am seeing. Half of the country refusing to allow the federal government to tell, states what to do and how to function. People are taking more and more control. More and more people are deciding to not allow the tyrants to control what people do and what people say and how they function. And the elites are beginning to lose control. I mean, you can visibly see them losing their control. They spend a lot of time at the World Economic Forum talking about how they're going to stop, free speech. They talk about how they're going to get control over, the flow of information again, because they've lost it. They no longer control. They're not going to be able to do the things that they've done. Having said that, I've got some downloads that I don't know what exactly, but some things are going to change in society in ways that I haven't. This is what I was told. Things are going to change in society in ways that you don't expect. So I don't know what that means, but keep an eye out for that. All of the, again, all the wars and all that other crazy nonsense that's been going on, those are all signs that this whole thing is coming down. So the more that stuff happens, the closer this Ascension event, I think, is coming. So when it's going to be here, it could be here tomorrow, it could be here a year from now, 5 years, 10 years, I don't know. What the higher dimensional beings have told me when I ask them, when is this going to come? They always say the same thing. They say it's going to come when you decide. So I'm going to decide. I'm going to shift. I'm not going to wait. And it's working. So if you want what I have, you got to do what I do. If you're just watching the channel and you think you're going to listen to some new age guy tell you something to make you feel better and all that, that's not who I am. I'm here to give you the practical tools that, if you do them, will create a physical shift of frequency within you. And remember, 5D is a frequency, it's not a place. You have control. You can decide to begin the shift. You'll have to face some things and do some uncomfortable things, but so what? So what? Big deal. It's just, they're just feelings. You can move past them. They're just fears. You can move past them. The great thing is that no feeling, no matter how strong, no matter how deep your fear is, no matter how deep your confusion is, no matter how deep your paranoia is, it can't stop you from taking the actions that will shift you. So, as you know, that's what we've got here on this channel. If you're serious about it, go to thunderwizard.com, subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. Just simply press play, follow the instructions, do the levels. You don't have to think about it. I'm doing it for you. Just follow what I'm doing on the videos. It's not live, it's recorded. Just follow on the videos and just do what I do. And then you can play around. There's so much information on there that you can pick and choose and create your own perfect set of exercises. And the 12 steps to 5D, that's free to everybody. Everybody should be doing that. When you get really serious and you want to do the most powerful practices, I believe, that's ever been downloaded to human beings, go to 923.thunderwizard.com. You will get access to all of the video courses I've ever made, all of the certifications, including the astrology, including the runes. But the most powerful is doing the 5-element Maoshan moving forms. You get power over the elements, which is how energy shifts. You learn how to create interdimensional doorways where interdimensional energies come directly to you. Trust me, if you get even the slightest bit of ability to do it, you'll see crazy things happen. That's at 923.thunderwizard.com. All right, and of course my books you can get here at michaelwilliamdenny.com. The most important book is The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. That is how the gods live. If you want to know how gods became gods, they followed that commandment. They followed that principle. Master that book. Memorize it. If you take the actions I put in there, I guarantee you your life will change. You might have some challenging emotions, but again, so what? They're just feelings. It's like the weather. It comes and it goes. All right, let's see if there's anything else. Anybody, any comments or questions here? All right, somebody wants to argue with me. Look, if you want to argue with me, go somewhere else. This is my classroom. I'm telling you what I know to be true. I'm not telling you what came out of a book. You want to read a book? Go for it. You like that book? Do it. You want to come on here and argue with me? Don't waste your energy. Create your own channel, write your own books, do your own teachings. Don't waste your time arguing with some talking head on YouTube. But I know what I've experienced. And it has nothing to do with my intellect or what I think or what, makes sense to me. I'm telling you because I've been there. I've experienced it. I've seen it. The whole idea of density is a made-up thing. If you want to understand dimensions, go and watch videos from physicists. Now, physicists can't talk about the emotional aspect, the psychological things that change from one dimension to another, because physics doesn't operate like that. But if you want to understand how bizarre and strange going from the third dimension to the fifth, why didn't I say the fourth? Because you're already living in the fourth dimension. It's called time. So you can't go from the third dimension to the fourth. You go from the third to the fifth, because the fourth dimension is what you flow through. See, this is practical reality. It's not New Age. I'm thinking this and I read this book and I think that. Hey, man, if you have an experience, write about it. Don't take anybody's word for it. Don't take my word for anything. And I'm telling you not to read The Law of One, because that's what people do. They read a book. They believe when somebody says that they've been possessed by some extraterrestrial that they're challenging. I'm here to tell you that ETs do not channel. They don't do that. And I'm getting huge amounts of energy as I say that. Which, whenever that happens, it means that they're agreeing with me. And I'll tell you why they do it. You want to know why? The main reason why the Law of One is nonsense is because the whole thing is based on some woman who claims to be fighting against evil spirits that are pulling her down, and she's also channeling some extraterrestrial being. And I'm here to tell you, ETs don't do that. They don't take over your body. They don't take over your nervous system. They don't speak through you. They would never do that. They have such incredible respect for your boundaries. They would never do something like that. If somebody wants to call it channeling because they're hearing a telepathic message and they're verbalizing it, if they want to call that channeling, fine. But the whole idea of going into some, and then you, for some reason, talk in this half-assed, crappy accent. For some reason, all of the ETs have some half-assed, crappy accent, and they can't speak English. Have you ever noticed that? So come on, this is childishness. Would you do that to somebody? If you would, you're abusive. You're a narcissist. That's what a narcissist wants to do. They want to take over you physically and control you and make you act like a puppet. ETs don't do that. Because ETs, the ones that are coming to Earth, are higher dimensional souls. They're just like you. They love you and respect you. So of course I don't believe in any of that garbage. That book is designed to distract you from your own power. So I can't tell you what to believe or not to believe. But I can tell you from personal experience, without any doubt whatsoever, that whole density stuff doesn't mean anything. Frequency is what this is about. Frequency is a real thing. Density is made up. Dimensions are a real thing. And dimensions are the result of frequency. Within the third dimension, we have multiple, you can call it densities if you want. Now I'm backtracking a little bit. But what we're talking about is different varying frequencies. There are worlds on top of our world within the third dimension, just like on a certain, the FM band of radio, there are multiple frequencies. You're still within the FM band. That's the third dimension. The third dimension has multiple frequencies. There are beings like Sasquatch that can shift in and out of different frequencies. They show up in our dimension, they disappear. There are, gremlins and fairies and all kinds of other spirits that can come in and out of our dimension, but those are frequencies within the third dimension. Once you get to a certain frequency, you shift into another dimension altogether. And if you want to understand how they're different, go and look it up. Go look on YouTube and type in different dimensions from a physicist's point of view, and you'll find out how crazy weird they are. But once you've been to other dimensions and you've felt how different it is emotionally and psychologically, and anybody who tells you that in higher dimensions there's hatred or anger or abuse or anything negative, they're either deluded or they haven't been there, or they're lying to you. Once you go to higher dimensions, the main thing you'll experience is the level of love increases in a quantum level. The level of love that exists in each succeeding higher dimension it's unfathomable. If we in the third dimension were to experience the full force of fifth dimensional love, we'd explode. If you hear somebody and they don't talk about that, they haven't been outside of this dimension. And if you don't believe me, great. Do the interdimensional meditation and find out for yourself. Do CE5 and find out for yourself. Don't take anybody's word for it. All right. What else? FIM sample. FIM sample, you've been around a long time and you just now got the book, The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Person. You just now, this is what I mean, people have been on the channel for years. He's just now gotten the book. Well, good for you. Whatever it takes. Listen, who cares? You did whatever you wanted to do in your time. Good for you. I'm glad that you got it, and I'm glad that you feel like it's been helpful to you. So yeah, it's been the single most transformative thing that I've learned in my life. That's why I say it's the most important book I've ever written, and it's the most important book I ever will write, no matter what dimension I end up on. It is the fundamental core truth of the entire universe. All the beings, even the gods themselves, follow that one commandment. And when we learn how to do it, we become gods. My mind is all over the place, very hard to meditate. What do you suggest? I suggest that you do what I suggest. I've got guided meditations on this channel. Go to the playlist and do the interdimensional meditations. You can press play, put on headphones, and let me guide you through a meditation. You want to really learn how to gain power? Do the Qigong. You don't have to have your mind stay in one place. By the way, that's a very common misconception about meditation. People tell you that meditation is when you still your mind. That's not meditation. That's the result of meditation. And meditation isn't solely sitting there and trying to empty your mind. That is a completely, totally bastardized misunderstanding. There's so many types of meditation. There's moving meditation, there's breath meditation, there's mantra. All of these, you don't have to have your mind still. You can be engaged in a task or a focus. I'm like you. I can't just sit still and have my mind go blank. So Sharita, you've just been taught wrong. That has nothing to do with meditation. So I've got the tools here. You can take the free tools. You go to the Maoshan Qigong, do those exercises. You can do the guided interdimensional meditation. You want to get serious, you can go here to the 90-day challenge and do the whole shebang that I teach. So my suggestion to you is do the practices that I teach, and you'll find a completely different way of functioning, and you won't have to worry about turning your mind off. What else? Again, somebody wanting to argue with me. I'm not interested in arguing with you. Let's see what else. Stephanie. So are these channelers making stuff up? I don't know. I'm not here to judge what they're doing or not doing. It's obvious that there are some people out there that are faking it. I think that's obvious to anybody, even if you believe in channeling. I think that's obvious. I think it's obvious that there are people out there that want to make money. And they know that people who claim to... Listen, I'll tell you why people like channelers so much. Because when you don't like yourself, when you don't believe in yourself, because you can't want to listen to a channeler if you believe in your own connection to spirit. If you believe in your own connection to spirit, you're not going to be running around for somebody to tell you. I mean, how do you know? Somebody says, I'm channeling so-and-so, and the words that come out of their mouth, all of a sudden you just gobble it up. But if I walk in and I say, what makes sense to me is, and I start telling you my understanding, my intuition, and I'm not channeling, you're going to go, nah. But if I go, oh, welcome, we are here today because we are, and all of a sudden you're going to write down everything I say. He's acting like an idiot. Oh, he must be channeling. Because it comes from self-devaluation. The channelers themselves are devaluing themselves. Because the channeler says, I don't have the ability to interact and communicate with this higher force, so I'm going to let it possess me and speak through me because I'm too much of an idiot to be able to just listen to somebody and repeat and reinterpret what was said to me. When you talk to your friends, you know, and your friend says, hey, can you tell your wife something for me? Can you tell her? You don't say, you know what, why don't you channel me? You just go, what? And you listen. Yeah, tell her to give me a call, because you go, okay. And then you tell your wife, hey, you know, so-and-so says to give him a call. You don't have to channel them. Why do we have to channel these beings? Do you see the childishness in it? The reason why I'm so passionate about it is because it's self-devaluing. The channel self-devalues because the channel says, I'm nobody, I'm nothing, but I'm so important that I'm the only person channeling this divine voice. It's just like the prophets in the Bible. Well, how do you know? Well, the prophet, you know, he's the prophet, he's the voice of God. God can't speak to everybody. He can only speak to that one bearded guy who's really angry all the time. It devalues the vessel and it devalues the listener, because the listener says, I don't have the ability to connect with that. Only this special being who's beyond and above us, they can talk to that being. It is full of self-devaluation and self-hatred. The people who channel are telling you you're an idiot. And the people who want to listen to them say, I'm an idiot and so are you. Tell me what the other being says. I am here to tell you, I have interacted. You can believe me or not believe me. I've made some videos about it, but I have gone all the way up the ladder. These higher dimensional beings have taken me and introduced me all the way up the ladder to what we would call the most supreme God. And that being didn't say, I am God. That being said, oh, by the way, you're me. I said, I am? Yeah, I'm you. You're me. You just don't realize it. And just told me normal things. Every single deity, every single being, what they do is they meet you where you are. They make you feel like you're special and beautiful and wonderful. And they talk to you the same way you would talk to a good friend. And the last thing any of them want to do is possess you. Demons want to possess you. But the last thing they want to do is possess you and then speak through you. That's devaluing to you, and they love you. They would never do that to you. This is why religion works. Religion is about devaluing you. And what's going to happen when this shift comes and people awaken, they're going to realize that they are the God they've been seeking this whole time. That the infinite God they've been worshiping has been in their soul this whole time. And that everything outside of them has been their own creation and their own projection. And don't take my word for it. I challenge you to do the interdimensional meditations and to say, hey, this guy Mahadeva said that he talked to these beings. I want to talk to them. Don't take my word for it. I'm not a prophet. I'm not a prophet. I'm not a channeler. I'm just a person just like you. That's all I am. I'm just a person who, jumped off the deep end, and I wanted to find out what the hell this was all about. I was willing to lose my mind over it. All right. What else? In the third dimension, ghosts. So Stephanie, I encourage you to actually write out a full sentence so that I don't have to guess. If we were sitting here talking, you would actually speak to me in a complete sentence so I knew what you wanted to ask me. So I now have to try and figure out what you're asking, and that doesn't serve you. So have more respect for you. Write out whole sentences so that I can give you the answer you're looking for. In the third dimension, ghosts. I've already talked about this, so perhaps you're new to the channel. So welcome to the channel, but I talk about this all the time. Dimensions and demons. can make their way into the third dimension, but they are very low frequency beings. Ghosts are not the souls of humans. The soul of the human being, when you die, your soul leaves this dimension, goes to a higher dimensional place, does the life review and all that. There's no such thing as souls trapped in the third dimension. It's an impossibility. But your personality, remember we talked about the video game. In order for your video game to work, you have to have a character, right? In every video game that you play, the role-playing game, you have to create a character, and your character has limitations, has a past and a backstory and all that. Even though that's not you, you know that, but I'm going to be the shaman or the wizard or the dwarf or whatever it is. So that character has where all your emotions are. By the way, all of your intense emotions, defending who you are, your anger, that's not your soul either. That's part of your 3D character. So when somebody dies and they haven't achieved at least some kind of awareness, or they haven't died with, surrendering to the shift, if it's been a traumatic event, they, were killed or who knows what, they're full of rage or anger when they died. Their character, which is now like an AI emotional thing, it's just self-aware enough to play out its character, character storyline. It gets squished out onto the third dimension. It can do things like turn lights on and off and knock things over and maybe moan. Have you ever noticed ghosts aren't happy? They're always sad or angry, right? Because they're not souls. They're characters. When people died, they were wrapped up in their character and they weren't getting what they want. That's why you go to the old ghost town, and there will be the ghost of a miner, and if somebody talks to him, the ghost will say, "Where's the gold? Get your hands off my gold." Like, dude, the gold's been gone for 150 years. And it's because they're still wrapped up in that, playing their character game. And what happens with ghosts is after a few hundred years, they start to dissipate and they go back into the earth. They're just energy from the earth. Demons are a more extreme version of that. If human beings become really, really rageful, or they become, intense, the really intense emotions, that the person doesn't even have to die for this to happen. It can get squished out onto the third dimensional plane. And then you notice that demons feed off of your negative energy. That's because they are just nothing more than negative emotions. That's all they are. And again, they have just enough AI consciousness roaming around. They think that they're real. But I know this because I used to be an exorcist. I've seen demons face to face. I've seen people completely transform into demons. Not just like their face changed. Like literally their face changed shape and turned into something. I've seen that with my very own eyes. And the thing that you get control over is you tell them to give them your name. Now, they don't want to give up their name, but you'll notice that their name is never Beelzebub, or they don't have a name because they're not a person. The name for demons will always be emotions: anger, fear, lust, greed, confusion. Those are their names because that's all they are. So those things you can only find in the third dimension. Once you go to the fifth dimension, those things don't exist. Why? Because of frequency. And even in this frequency, why don't you see ghosts and demons all the time? Because they're at a lower frequency beneath ours. And when the electromagnetic field of the earth changes, because it changes every time the sun goes down, it opens up a barrier and they can come up through. Does it make sense now? It's all about frequency. If you understand that, it'll be helpful for your journey going forward. What else? Nothing else? That's it. All right. I got a little passionate. Anyway, my apologies if I've done or said anything that was hurtful or offensive to anybody. Know that I'm only coming from a place, literally the only thing that I'm operating from is a desire to be helpful. So If I've done or said anything that was hurtful or offensive to anybody, please know that I'm working through it, and I'm trying to be the best person I can be, and I hope that I said something that was helpful. In the meantime, everything here is for you. All of these links are here for you. And again, if you're just listening to me talk, you're not getting anything about what this channel is really about. Go to the free playlist. It won't cost you a dime. Do the practices. My deep thanks to everybody for coming here, and especially to those people who are doing the work. If you're doing the practices, if you're doing anything to evolve, to go beyond where you are to a higher frequency place, I benefit. When you awaken, I awaken. And when you awaken, the gods awaken. The gods themselves, if you do anything, I know this again, I've seen it, I've experienced it. I will make a slight shift in myself, and I'll drop something and I'll awaken to a small degree. I'm not kidding you, thousands of ETs clapping and extremely happy and grateful. They're not just happy that I've grown, but they're grateful because they have grown as well. We all grow together. So every time you do anything that shifts your frequency up, the gods themselves are grateful to you for that. So I thank you to everybody who's doing the work, whoever you are. And that's it. So as always, if the flash don't come, and or if I don't get beamed up to the Starship Enterprise, and or I don't shift myself out of this frequency, I will see you all very soon. Please take very good care of yourselves.